Well, to my channel Heart Echo, please subscribe and likes for more videos. The town of Millwood was small, tucked between rolling fields and quiet forests, the kind of place where everyone seemed to know everyone else. Yet, in that very town lived a woman who remained invisible despite the countless sacrifices she made. Her name was Maria. Maria had never been the sort of woman who sought attention. She lived for her children, Daniel and Emily, and everything she did revolved around their lives. After her husband passed away in an accident when the children were still young, Maria carried the burden of being both mother and father. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning houses during the day and waiting tables at a small diner at night. To the outside world, she was just another tired woman in a faded uniform, but her heart carried a love that could move mountains. Daniel, the elder of the two, was bright and ambitious. He had dreams of going to college, of leaving Millwood behind and seeing the world. Emily, younger by 3 years, was quiet, creative, and sensitive. She loved painting and often sat by the window with her brushes, losing herself in colors. Maria nurtured both children in their own way. She bought Daniel second-hand textbooks from the library sale and encouraged Emily by saving scraps of paper and old notebooks so she could paint on the backs. What no one knew was how much Maria gave up for them. She owned just 2 pairs of shoes, one worn for work and the other saved for church on Sundays. Every winter, instead of buying a new coat for herself, she patched the old one again and again. She often skipped meals, pretending she wasn't hungry, so that her children could have more. The lights in their small house stayed dim because she was always careful with the electric bill. And still, whenever her children looked at her, Maria smiled as though the world had given her everything she could ever want. Daniel didn't see it at first. Like many teenagers, he felt frustrated by their lack of money. He envied his classmates who had new sneakers, phones, and cars. He dreamed of leaving the little town and sometimes resented his mother for not being able to give him the life he imagined he deserved. He didn't know that every late shift she took, every coin she saved, was a quiet sacrifice for his future. One cold December night, Maria came home from the diner well past midnight. Her feet ached, her back burned, and her hands were rough from scrubbing tables. She tiptoed into Daniel's room and placed a small envelope on his desk. Inside were application forms for colleges, along with a note in her delicate handwriting. "Dream as big as you want, my son. Don't hold back because of me. I'll find a way." Daniel found the note the next morning. He didn't know it then, but Maria had skipped paying part of the heating bill that month so she could afford the application fees. She spent nights at the diner with frozen fingers and a forced smile, never telling anyone how much it hurt. Meanwhile, Emily noticed more than her brother did. She saw how her mother's hand shook when she thought no one was looking. She saw the way her mother quietly mended her shoes under the kitchen light long after they had gone to bed. Emily once asked, "Mama, why don't you buy something new for yourself?" Maria only kissed her forehead and replied, "I already have everything new I could want." To your smile. When Daniel got accepted into a college in another city, Maria cried alone in her room. They weren't tears of sadness, but of relief, of joy, of fear all at once. She knew the years ahead would be harder, the costs heavier, but she also knew her son's dream was coming true. Daniel didn't realize that his mother pawned her wedding ring and the last piece of jewelry she owned that had any real value to pay for his bus ticket and first month's dorm rent. He left Millwood full of excitement, barely noticing how his mother stood in the cold waving until the bus disappeared. Back home, Maria worked harder. She picked up extra shifts at the diner, waking up before sunrise and returning long after dark. She kept sending Daniel small amounts of money, telling him it was just a little extra, though she herself was barely scraping by. Emily, still at home, saw the toll it took. She began to help Maria cooking small meals, taking care of chores, and trying not to ask for too much. She even stopped asking for new paints and learned to create with whatever scraps she had. But Maria's body began to fail her. Years of endless work had worn her down. She developed a persistent cough, one that rattled her chest at night. Yet she ignored it, telling herself there wasn't time to be sick. She had to keep going. Her children needed her. Daniel came home for the holidays 2 years later, taller, more confident, his voice deeper. He carried new clothes and books, things that made him look like he belonged to a world beyond Millwood. At first, he didn't notice how thin his mother had become or how her face had aged far more than the years should have allowed. He was too busy telling her about his classes, his professors, his new friends. Maria listened with glowing eyes, pride radiating from her tired face. She never mentioned her own struggles, never told him that she had skipped meals again just to send him money. It was Emily who finally confronted her brother. One night, while Maria was asleep, Emily whispered, "Daniel, do you even see her anymore? She doesn't eat, she doesn't rest, she works herself until she can barely stand, and you just keep asking for more." Daniel frowns. He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew his sister was right. The guilt hit him harder than anything else. For the first time, he looked at his mother. Tria saw the thinness of her wrists, the way her shoulders slumped, the lines etched into her face. He remembered how often she had said she wasn't hungry, how she wore the same coat winter after winter. He realized then that every success he had, every step he had taken toward his dreams, had been bought by sacrifices she never spoke of. That night he sat beside her as she slept on the worn couch, a thin blanket wrapped around her. He noticed her hands cracked, rough, the nails chipped. He thought of all the things those hands had done, cooking meals, washing clothes, cleaning houses, serving strangers at the diner, holding him when he was a boy. Those hands had given him everything, and he had never once thought to hold them back. When Maria woke, she found Daniel sitting quietly, tears in his eyes. He took her hand and whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry. I see it now. I see everything you've done, and I promise I'll make it worth it." Maria only smiled, brushing his hair back like she had when he was small. "You already have, Daniel. You already have." Years later, when Daniel graduated with honors, he dedicated his degree to his mother. Standing on the stage in front of hundreds, he told the audience about the woman who worked day and night, who gave up everything she had so her children could dream freely. The crowd applauded, but Maria sat quietly in the back, tears streaming down her face. For once, her sacrifices were no longer unseen. But the truth remained that most of them always would be the skipped meals, the sleepless nights, the clothes she never bought, the endless hours of pain she endured without complaint. Those sacrifices lived only in the hearts of her children, silent witnesses to a love so deep that it asked for nothing in return. Emily went on to become an artist. Her paintings often centered around themes of resilience and love. One of her most famous works was titled "The Hands That Fed Me," a tribute to her mother's quiet strength. Daniel built a career, but he never forgot the cost of his success. He called his mother every night, sent money back home, and eventually moved her into a house filled with warmth and comfort, the kind she had never known while raising them. And Maria? She never asked for recognition, never sought the world's applause. She lived her life the same way she always had, quietly, humbly, giving more than she ever took. For her, the greatest reward was simply watching her children live the lives she had once only dreamed of for them. A mother's sacrifice is often invisible, hidden in the smallest choices, the quietest moments, the things no one else sees. Maria's story was no different. To the world, she was just another woman in a faded uniform, but to her children, she was everything. The reason they stood tall, the reason they had hope, the reason they knew what love truly meant. Her sacrifices might never have made the headlines, but they built the foundation of two beautiful lives. And in that, Maria's love would live forever, seen, felt, remembered, even when the world had overlooked it.